a couple more minutes. Thank you for your patience, guys. I expect that the first time we do this, it will be bumpy. I think that the next couple of times, maybe not so much.
Mm-hmm.
And in the meantime, I hope you won't hold it against us, but you can tell I'm in my home office. So the background is not exactly the most exciting in the world, but I think you will forgive me for that. Okay. All right. So if that's okay with you, we're going to give it another second there. I know that Val and Adam are also helping troubleshoot there on the microphone. We'll do a roll call in a little bit and have people also introduce themselves. But I just want to let you know that I am actually recording this session. And I want to let you know that it's going to be available later at the course. So if you are very sensitive to having your voice or image out there, then just want to let you know that you can turn your camera off. You can, be on mute and not participate. But we hope that you will be with us because part of the fun is actually doing this, connecting with people live. So thank you so much for taking the time. I just want to start by one more time by saying that this is an experiment. We hope that this will be a nice way for us to bridge this geographical divide that sometimes we find ourselves in. Some of us sometimes are not as close to a Spiritist group and have challenges connecting with other Spiritists because, in the grand scheme of things, there aren't that many Spiritists throughout the world where you can find one in every corner, right, to talk to. Or at the same time, maybe you do have a Spiritist group near you, but you just can't make it work with your schedule, right? We have different lifestyles, different demands, and that's nice. And, why not connect with folks from different perspectives, from different places that have different perspectives to offer. So really excited that you have accepted the invitation to try this thing out. I also want to recap really quickly that this course is slightly different than maybe most of the online meetings that we've done before because it's not just about the online meeting. It's an attempt to also provide you with some content and context that you can follow online. And I hope that you will also take the time, if you find it interesting, to interact with folks on the different forum, the different pieces of the online piece. Because the idea here is to obviously share some content, but also have folks connect with each other because I am an avid believer that learning is a social activity that you learn when you connect and you interact with others. And so this is one of the advantages of doing this online piece and the reason why we really do it. So this course, as you know, also has a limited time. We don't want to run this thing forever. We are going to do different contents and different pieces later on. And I think that the next course eventually in January will be really diving into the Spirits book, be more specific. But it makes sense, in my mind at least, I hope you agree, to start with some sort of foundational knowledge of what is Spiritism before we actually talk about some parts of Spiritism or the foundational work, right? So I'm going to put that out there and see if you have any questions about the course itself in a little bit. I just want to go through a couple of more housekeeping things so that you know where we're standing today. We're doing an online thing, and it never goes fully according to plan, right? We have technical challenges. We're just glad that you're here. I just want to let you know that I might mute you during the call if there is a lot of feedback noise or anything else happening. If that's the case, and you want to see, just flag me, raise your hand or type or what it is, and I will unmute you as well, so that we can try to control quality, make sure that everybody is happy here. The other thing I should tell you too is there's obviously interactions via chat. You can chime in. We have a limit of 25 people on video in this platform right now. More than 25 people can join. Up to 100 people can join. I don't expect that many people. Let's be honest. We have 99 people signed up for the course, and so I don't think that's going to happen. But you know, 25 people can be here on video at a time. And I should tell you too that if this is the first time using Zoom, you might see on your screen an option to either do speaker view or gallery view. That's your choice. Speaker view, you get to see whoever is speaking, and I will stop speaking in a little bit and not hog the floor here. So if you just want to see who's speaking, you choose that, and whenever the sound is captured by somebody else, then you move. So it's one way of seeing who's speaking. Or you can do the gallery view, which is generally how it starts, and you have everybody on camera, right? So feel free to be on camera. Feel free to chime in at any point in time during a conversation, and just know that you do have some choice there when it comes to how you see things. So far, so good. Does it make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Any questions about the format before we dive into introductions? Anything else they might want to ask or mention about the course in general before we do a little quick rip around and talk to each other?
I think it's probably going to be, like say, a learning process as we're going to figure out as we go. But with a lot of people online and on camera at the same time, it's really going to be difficult to discuss any topic without perhaps too many hands, too much input. So, but like I say, we're just probably gonna figure it along as we go.
We sure will, sir. We are going to be polite and civil because that's the reason we're here. We are going to recognize that everybody's trying to do their best to understand the content, and it's here out of their own free will. Clearly, no one's getting paid to do this, but you're very right. And we, as a community, will find our way through this. You know, we'll self-regulate, and we'll do our best, and we'll see how it turns out. Hopefully, this will not replace, like, you know, an in-person meeting, but it will come as close as we can possibly come, right? So thank you. Any other questions about the course in general? Okay. And just as a reminder, we had this initial session marked for 1.5 hours, so we're 15 minutes into it, so another 1 hour and 15. I understand that some people may not stay for that long. Totally okay. This is for you. If you can, as a friend of mine tells me, like, you have to pull your own happiness wagon. If it's not working out for you, don't feel like you have to kind of stick it out for the whole session, although we would love to have it, right?
É que eu assinei por uma classe.
And so
Certo.
we'll go around a little bit and do some
ano que ia ter uma sessão hoje às 2 horas.
All right, so if that's okay with you, we'll do a little bit of an introduction session, see how our cameras and audios are working, and then we'll, if that's okay, we'll do a little prayer and then jump into the topic. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. Great, great. So can we start with you, Sergio?
Sure. So my name is Sergio. I was born in the U.S., raised in Brazil for about 21 years. Been here in the U.S. since '97, but I've only been introduced to Spiritism back in 2015. So I've been studying for about, 2013. So studied for about 3 years. Had a chance to work and study in 3 different Spiritist centers. But I generally felt the need of a higher amount of hours of study per week. And unfortunately, as it seems, there is a limited amount of people from the Brazilian community, for the most part, who are fluent enough to transmit the Spiritist doctrine with fluency and be able to discuss at length. So I was really, for a long time, kind of hoping that this will come up where we can, utilize not only the people around us, but use the internet to bridge that distance gap.
Great. Thank you, Sergio. Thanks for that. We're glad to have you here. Cristiane, do you mind going next?
Sure. My name is Cristiane Michelini. I'm originally from Paraná, Brazil, and I have been in the US for about 20 years. I am in the Chicago area, and I help to run the Spirit Society of Illinois. It's a very small center near Chicago. It's in Downers Grove. And it's our attempt to kind of, you know, bring Spiritism to the US. So we have a session in English and then one during the week in Portuguese. Most of our members are Brazilians, but we have a few Americans that participate in our meetings. So we are always very excited about that. I got involved with Spiritism for the last 40 years. So I am kind of a newbie in this doctrine, but I love it, and it has transformed me somehow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Great. Francisca, can we go to you?
Sure. Can you hear me now? Okay, so my name is Francisca. I'm German. I live in Germany right now. And I attend a Spiritist group in German. We have a bit more German than Brazilians participating, which is really nice because I got to know Spiritism back in Brazil about 13 years ago. And I spent 6 years in the UK, and I created the Spirit Society of London and did some other courses and online stuff on public radio with Mackenzie, as you know. So, and I'm really excited to have the opportunity to connect with people from all over the world and to have English as the common language to learn about Spiritism.
Wonderful. Thank you, Francisca. We're really glad to have you here. You know, Francisca has participated on some podcasts as well with my friend Mackenzie. So it was really great to see you here, Francisca. Thanks for making the time. And I'm also going to ask you guys, if that's okay, I forgot to mention this. If you can, when you're not speaking, if you can mute yourself, that way it helps us control that quality in general, right? That's always a good practice if you can do that. Great. All right. Gustavo, do you mind jumping in next?
Hello, everyone. My name is Gustavo. I had the chance to participate in a study group with Daniel maybe a few years back when I moved to LA. And that was very nice. We had a very good group and we learned a lot over a few years. And then Daniel moved to San Diego, so we lost him. So when he started this online group, I thought was a good chance to get to study with him again. And I was very excited to do it, and very excited to know a lot of you as well.
Wonderful. Great to see you again, sir. All right. Chris, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Chris.
Yeah,
Yes.
my name's Chris. I'm from England. I come from Hertfordshire, which is near London. I don't know if you can see me. I'm actually in my car at the moment, so I've had to stop to take part in this meeting. I'm completely new to all of this. This is my first course, first time I've done all this. I basically know what Spiritism is because I've read a bit about it, but yeah, this is all quite new to me, so I'm looking forward to learning a lot here.
Well, we're very excited to have you, and you get the effort award for doing it from your car. That's fantastic. That's exactly why we do these things. So hopefully you can do this anytime, anywhere. I'm gonna do a quick plug here too. I don't know if you noticed this, but we use Moodle for our online platform. So you can actually download an app for Moodle, and then when you sign in, you can do Spiritism online, and basically gets all the content on your phone. So it's quite possibly that you might go through this entire experience without ever being in front of the computer, right? And the idea is to remove those barriers. So thanks for being here, Chris. And you know, Spiritism is about learning, and you're going to find people of all different experience levels here. Don't be shy. Ask all the questions you want. Really great to have you here. Thanks for putting the time and effort being with us. Wonderful. And Yulia, did I get that right? How do I pronounce your name? Were you able to get audio?
Yes, yes. Just something I never did on my computer. So on a phone was direct, so it was easy. Yeah, it's people call me Julia, but it's in Croatian, Julia. I'm originally from Croatia, living in Australia 13 years, and I just few years ago I started to listen cardiac radio and Vanessa Anzalone programs, and I was like following that and reading the books, and that was basically all. There was we used to live in Melbourne. There was like one Spiritist center there that we used to occasionally go because it was not so close. And now we moved 13 hours away in another part of Australia, in Queensland, close to Brisbane. And again, I'm far away from any Spiritist center. So we go like once a month on Saturday in the Spiritist center in Brisbane. And basically all I do is just online. Because around us there is nothing really, and I pray and hope to start something with my husband, some study group or something. But yeah, I'm not yet ready, so I need a lot to learn before we are ready to to do that. And I'm happy to be here today. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. We're really excited. Australia is a huge, huge country. It's a continent, basically. And so
Yeah.
I know it's hard to move around. Thanks for being here. That's wonderful. How about you, Anne? Would you be willing to go next?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. No, I'm a little bit technophobe, so I'm never sure how these things work. So hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. I'm really excited. Thank you, Dan, so much for facilitating this. This has been my dream, that we could have like a way to communicate online, because the reality is that the groups are quite far apart. And particularly, I think like here in England, we have an issue, like lots of the groups, they're all in Portuguese. A lot of the Brazilians, they say they're happy to work in English, to go to the bank in English, to go out in English. But when they study Spiritism, they want to do it in Portuguese. I don't get it. But anyway, that is the reality. So yeah, I studied Spiritism for about 30 years now. And I really started studying Spiritism here in London with Janet Duncan from the Allan Kardec Study Group, who was like a pioneer of Spiritism in the UK. And I've had many different moments. We had a group called the Family Group for about 15 years, then dismantled for several reasons. At the moment, I'm running a little group from home. And exactly my interest is in working with people who know nothing of Spiritism. Because I feel that sometimes, like in the groups, you're coming in and everybody's talking to each other on a level like they know stuff. And if you're new, then you feel a little bit like an outsider. So this is my area of interest. Something's happened. Yeah. What's
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
I've disappeared. I don't know what's happened here. Dan's disappeared from my screen.
We can hear you.
Oh.
We can't hear Dan anymore.
Yeah, Dan, we've lost you.
Oh, sorry, because Genius over here pressed the mute button.
Okay.
But Anne, we can see you. Keep going. Sorry for that.
No, that's fine. I think that's more or less what I want to say. So I'm really excited to do some work on a level of talking about Spiritism as an introduction for people who have not a clue, for people who are not Catholic, who are coming in with an open mind, with interest in spiritual things, finding ways of communicating, building bridges, and opening the door to all the wonderful things that Spiritism teaches us. Because after all, I used to say it was my compass. Now I've upgraded it to my GPS. It gives me my guidance when I'm not sure which way to go. It helps me to think through my problems, and that is invaluable for me. Okay, that's me.
That's great. Well, we're really glad to have you here, and you know, I'm a big fan. I know of the work that you've been doing for a very long time. Super thrilled that you're here joining us in this experiment. Thank you. Great. And can we go to iPhone? iPhone, you're showing up as iPhone, but I don't know your name. Apologies.
Is it?
Oh, iPhone went away.
I'm not on the iPhone, but I'm on the phone.
Hold on. I think that, okay, iPhone came back. Hold on a second. I think there's different people on the phone. You are wearing glasses and you are on camera using your iPhone. We don't know your name.
Me.
Would you mind?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Oh, hi.
Yes.
My name's Stacy, and I live in San Antonio, Texas. I'm half Brazilian, and I was brought up in Brazil, and there's nothing about Spiritism here in San Antonio. The few people that I've even mentioned it to, I think they've never spoke to me afterwards. So not very, very welcomed here, but, and that's okay. But my sister, she's big into, she's a medium, and she's actually in LA. And she has evolved as a student a lot more than I have. My grandmother was a medium, so I've seen a lot of stuff, and it's given me a lot of answers to a lot of things that have gone on in this life. But my husband, who's American, started reading about Spiritism and started asking me stuff, and I came to find out that I know very little, and I always thought that I knew quite a bit, and I don't. So I've been right-sized, and so I'm here, and my sister's super excited to see me doing this because I'm somewhat lazy. So other than that, yeah, I'm super excited to get to know more people that I can relate to and I can learn with. And yes, I talk a lot when I get nervous, so just be patient with me. And I'm the person with the iPhone, yes.
Don't worry, Stacey. I've changed your name. You're no longer iPhone. You're now Stacey.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Your story is very similar to a lot of us. I, for one, also think the same thing. I think I know a lot until somebody asks me a question like, I don't know that. I got to go back and study.
Yeah.
So really glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Val and Adam, do you guys want to say hello?
Yeah, hello. Hello, everybody. Me first. Yes. Okay, me first. So I am a Spiritist since very young, 30 years, around 30 years, from Brazil. I'm Brazilian, and I've been living in the UK for 16 years, and we have a little group here in the area of Windsor and Maidenhead. We are in English because we think that if you are in an English-speaking country, you have to speak English. We think more or less the same, like Annie. This online study in English, like Annie said, is our dream as well. Has been our dream for a long time, and we are very happy to be here. To be able to take part in this. So thank you, Dan, for facilitating, for having this initiative, which is fantastic.
Right. And right. And so I suppose it's my turn now. Yep, so Adam here. I am native English. I started to learn about Spiritism about 12 years ago. Thanks to this wonderful person next to me, and had the great opportunity to learn even more when we decided to live in Brazil for a few years, and so from there learned more and more. Started to work with a lot more of the voluntary side that many Spiritist centres in Brazil work with, going out to help the communities, that kind of thing. And now we're back in the UK, and yes, as of as of tomorrow, our little Spiritist group will be celebrating its 3rd anniversary, and it's been just growing slowly and slowly, and we're delighted with it. It's a great opportunity to have a discussion with anyone who wants to come and learn, absolutely anyone. And just to pick up on something that Sergio put in the chat, yes, you're absolutely right. Many Brazilians, well, many people who don't have English as their native language are very self-conscious about that. And so during our meetings, we purposely tell people, don't worry if you make a mistake. It's not a problem. Just say the words in the way that you can find them. Because at the end of the day, we are still learning. And that's one of the great things about this course that you've put together, Dan, because for us, we still want to find a way to learn. Obviously, if we can find a way to help others as well, then that's great. But to learn as well, that's magnificent.
Thank you, guys. Congratulations on the 3rd anniversary of the group that's coming up. That is really, really great. You know, Spiritism is a labor of love. Nobody ever charges anyone for anything. And we know how hard it is to get a group going. So we're really excited that you guys continue to do that. That's fantastic. And yeah, you know, we're here to learn from each other. And I think that's one of the things we're going to talk about for the course, even though we might be at different exposure levels or different experience levels. With different content, we always learning. So super excited you guys can take the time to do that. It always helps when the couple does this together. You know, it's a lot easier to continue your studies when that takes place. So really great, guys. Great to have you here. And we have 2 more people here. We have our very own dear and beloved 49695-899-6835. Would you mind saying hello to us? Can we call you 496?
Hi. Sorry. It's me. I'm Aline. I'm originally from Brazil, but I live in Germany. I'm calling from Germany. I live in Frankfurt. I grew up in a Spiritist house, so I started studying since I was a kid. I moved to Chicago. I used to be part of the Spiritist Society of Chicago. That's where I met you then, almost a year ago. Hello?
Hello, we're hearing you. Keep going.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, that's where I met you then a year ago. And I moved to Frankfurt last year. I've been feeling, I don't know the word in English, but a little bit without support because I cannot join. There's a Spiritist group here that I'm not able to join their meetings. And when I saw that you had this this idea in this group that was going to start, I was very excited because I really miss this type of discussions and interactions. Today I'm still in the office. This is why I'm calling on the phone. So I'm hoping that next time I can join it through video so I can see you guys.
Wonderful. Thank you, Aline. It's great to hear your voice again. Yeah, you nailed it. This is why we're doing this, right? Exactly for that reason. So we're really glad to have you here as well. And you're no longer 496. Now you're Aline as well on the online version. So that only leaves us with 1630-450-3183. Hello. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Hello, Dan. This is Maria from Spirit Society of Illinois, the same as Cliciani. And I met you before in 2 or 3. You came here and talked to us. And I was in Brazil for almost 4 years, and I attended in Brazil in the Spirit Center there and did some course there. Then I moved to US in 2006, and I started a group in Oak Park in Spirit Society of Chicago. Then I split into Spirit Society, one in Chicago, another one in Illinois. And now we are in Spirit Society of Illinois in Downers Grove. I coordinate the meetings on Tuesdays in Portuguese. And for me, I'm so thankful that I have this opportunity. Thank you, Dan, and thank everybody for this opportunity to have this in English, because for me it's the first time. I just watched the lecture, but I never had the study in English and use the book in English. Then I have more difficult to speak in English, because in the language, the spirit in this language. Then I'm so thankful for this then, and for this course online.
Well, we're very thankful that you are here, so thank you for that. This is what makes it wonderful, is when we have a chance to connect with each other. So I think that we've got everybody who's on the line. I don't think that we missed anybody. Oh, we did.
You
Mr.
did.
DJ Walton. I'm like, I talked to you, but I thought, we need to hear from you too.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, it's great to be here. Yeah, my name's David Walkden. I'm calling from Miami. It's good to hear a few English voices, because you can probably detect I was originally born in England, in Manchester. I've lived in Brazil, but I really have Daniel to thank for my involvement in Spiritism when he came to the Conscious Living Center about somewhat 7 years ago, and I was reluctantly going through a friend of a friend, but I was looking for something. I've never had much religion in my life, and I think Daniel was a major player in really getting me involved and getting me really excited about this great doctrine. So the last 7 years I've been studying a lot, getting more and more involved. I'm now fortunate to retired, so I find myself spending more and more time studying while I'm working in my garden and enjoying this Florida weather, but I'm listening on my Bluetooth and listening to lectures. And my interest really is more from the scientific side. I'm very much a scientist and a logical thinker. But I find there's a great, the gap is narrowing between science and religion, and particularly Spiritism. And I'm really, again, happy to be part of the group. I'm very active in our Conscious Living Center, where we're privileged with some very good people. Some of the listeners today might know Susanna Simons and Andrea Marshall Neto and her husband. So I've been involved in courses and actually trying now, learning, as you say, learning all the time, actually sort of guiding through a Spirit's Book course in English on a Sunday mornings before our main meeting in English. But like a lot of people have said, I feel a little frustrated in that there is so much information in Portuguese, but very little information in terms of in English, and videos and material in English. And when I saw that Dan was putting together this initiative, I felt it's a fantastic opportunity, and hopefully to spread the gospel, as it were. So I'm happy to be part of it, excited, and would like to help in any way I can to promote and learn from this process. So that's me in Miami.
That's great, David. Thanks for sharing that. Those are the kindest and most nicest ever words you could say about me. So thank you. I am humbled. Clearly, you can tell I love talking quite a bit, but I want to turn this over to you before we go any further, though, if that's okay with you. We'll do a quick little prayer. It's what we do with Spiritists in general, meetings in general. And the idea is just to ask for a little bit of clarity of mind, to kind of tune this into the learning that we can do ahead together. Obviously, you don't need to join if you don't want to, but it's really up to you. So I'm just going to take a quick moment. Close your eyes if you want to. I will not, because I don't feel like it right now. It's totally okay. And I'm just going to really ask for our continued presence of the Creator in everything that we do, that we may have the chance to continue to do exactly what we're doing, coming together to talk about higher and more important things, which is the understanding and realization that we are immortal beings having a physical experience, and that we may continue to be able to study and investigate that reality and shift the way that we think and behave in the world of ours, realizing that maybe we are a little bit closer to each other than oftentimes we think we are, that our nature really is one of growth and light. And I hope that more and more we may feel these bonds love and affection that should really permeate through all beings, being tightened here in our community as we embark on this wonderful journey of trying to think about really higher things. And we thank everybody who's present, including our spiritual friends who are also dialed in with us wherever we go. And we hope that more and more we be able to learn together and grow together. And hopefully that learning together and growing together will make us happier. So we thank God. And with this, we kickstart our session. All right. Very grateful. Thank you, God. Let's do this. So, the first part of our course was really the idea of starting with what is Spiritism. And I think it's a very important topic because it's a difficult one. It's such an encompassing and broad body of knowledge, a science, that is sometimes hard to define it. But we try to frame this a little bit by using Kardec's words. And if you had a chance to look at the first module on the website, there were a couple of materials that we wanted to pay attention to. Namely, we wanted to really start where it all started with the Spirits book, right? So the introduction of the Spirits book, I think that the first paragraph or so of the Spirits book is brilliant in my view, because it frames the very idea and the DNA of Spiritism, which is innovation and science. And it basically says, for new concepts, new words are needed, right? So Kardec coins the term Spiritism to show us that there is spiritualism, and spiritualism is the belief in the spirit in the most broad sense. And that Spiritism is part of that, but there are specific things that Kardec and others who have joined him in this great exploration have come to believe to be true based on the experiences they had with the interaction of the spirit in 1850s France. And we can talk more a little bit about the story of Spiritism, and we plan on doing that on Module 2. We can dive in a little bit here if we want to, but I just want to let you know that we're going to do that over there too in Module 2. And out of that interaction, this idea that we are immortal spirits gets solidified, and he comes up with this wonderful, I personally think, clearly I'm biased, but I think this wonderful definition of what Spiritism is in a short publication called What is Spiritism, where he says that Spiritism is a science that studies or deals with the nature, origin, and destiny of spirits, as well as its relationship to the physical world, right? So we'll stop right there. And then we put some other pieces in there. I try to do a primer for those who are lazy, like myself, to see if that makes sense, kind of breaking that apart. And I also put another article because oftentimes people who come from Brazil or who visited Brazil also call Spiritism Kardecism. And I think that is, it shortchanges us, put it this way. So words sometimes are important because they define what is it that we're going to talk about. And if we have different definitions for the same word, we're going to talk about different things, and that will create confusion. And so I want to hone in on that definition and open it up for all of us to talk a little bit about that to make sure we're clear, so you know what you're getting when you're talking to us, so that we have this common language, this safe foundation from which to build moving forward. Does that make sense? And so my question to you is, whoever wants to chime in here, is what of this whole piece that hopefully you had the time to look into did you find most interesting, or that it was new to you that you feel like you want us to talk about? And if you don't talk, you're going to have me talking, and you don't want that. You really want to talk. It's going to be way more entertaining if you talk.
I guess I'll go ahead. I think the article about why not use Kardecism instead of Spiritism is very valid. But I did have a little conversation with a friend of mine that probably knows a whole lot more than me as far as being Spiritist in Brazil. And I suppose that perhaps, this is just a theory, that the origin of the Kardecism, it was perhaps in Brazil, where people will try to differentiate between Spiritist centers who concentrate perhaps more on the phenomena, and other Spiritist centers who concentrated more on the education, So I don't know, but this is just a perhaps me, like I say, theorizing something about how that differentiation became in Brazil, because I know, at least I imagine that's where it came from.
Great question. Great point. And for those who may not be Brazilian or may not be connected to the Brazilian culture deeply, the second article that I put in there, Spiritism versus Kardechism, is one that permeates the Brazilian culture a little bit, because there is some confusion about Spiritism and spirituality in general. In Brazil, sometimes the term spiritualism is forgotten completely, and Spiritism is used interchangeably, and people sometimes refer to the term Spiritism in Brazil as meaning everything under the sun relating to the spirit. And I think that a lot of confusion comes from that. And that's why sometimes people use, I think, the word Kardechism, because they want to show or talk about a specific part of spiritualism, because they are not aware maybe that the word spiritualism actually exists, right? And so it's a lot of confusion about the term. And I think that if you go into Latin cultures too, you're going to find Spiritismo, and that also means many different things for the same reasons. The words are mixed up, so you'll find like voodoo, you find all kinds of things that are, I would argue, are not Spiritism in its most fundamental sense, because the word Spiritism did not exist before 1850s, the 1850s. How do I know that? I actually do a mini research on that, and if you use Google, for instance, Google Scholar, you can actually find the term, and you won't find that word before the 1850s, for the very same reason that I explained. It didn't exist, it wasn't there. But because of lack of knowledge about the origins of the word and the implications of the body of knowledge, we use spiritualism and Spiritism as if they were one and the same. One of the challenges, for instance, that we have is, if you open a dictionary here in the United States, you'll find Spiritism, spiritualism. And so we're going to work on that later and try to differentiate that, because there's no point having two words that mean the same. It defeats the purpose of words, if you know what I mean, right? The reason why we have different words, because we have different things. So it's important to know that. And also because I think it's unfair to other ways of thinking if you are talking about them with the same word, confusion. Nobody really wins, right? So it's a great point there. I think that the coalescing around the term Spiritism is one that that's really important to avoid confusion, right? Like Kardec brilliantly, I think, personally, says, and I think you'll notice this too. Kardec is really good as an educator that he was, of leading with great topical sentences, right? So he's always going to start your paragraph or your text or whatever it is with a great summation, with a great, what I call block, right? Bottom line on top. He's going to give you that first sentence that is really encompassing of everything else that you see underneath, and then he's going to explain that. He's really good at that, in my opinion. So you know where you stand with him, and he's going to work on these definitions to make sure that you have this fundamental knowledge before he adds up to it. He's very intentional in the way he does that too. I don't know if you noticed that, but he tries to work on the basics and then layer things on top, which I think goes a little bit to what Anne was saying, that it's important to make that bridge, because it's easy for us Spiritists to kind of quickly go down this rabbit hole of all the information that we already have, especially Brazilians who have been exposed to material that is not yet translated into English. And then sometimes they will say, oh, because Chico Xavier or Francis Xavier said, and the people are like, all right, who's that guy? Like, I don't know who that is. Like, why should I listen to him? But there's a lot of the cultural context that has been acquired through time that sometimes we're not mindful at all. So we don't do a good job sharing that. So with that in mind, like if you hear something for the first time today, a term or whatever it is, please, by all means, do not feel bad about raising your question, raising your hand, asking a question. And if you feel a little bit uncomfortable, do the chat thing, do the private thing. But we want to make sure that you get the information that you want to, because in a way, I know this is a horrible example, but Spiritism and learning is like a credit card. Like, it's personal and not transferable, right? You've got to do what it takes for you to learn and for you to pull things, and not just take something for granted because somebody said, right? I think Spiritism goes against that, for, you know, in all senses. It's about empowering you to really make sense of the world around you. So anyway, let's stop babbling there. But what else did you guys, do you agree, do you disagree? What else do you guys find interesting about the topic in general?
I speak? Hi.
You speak.
Can I speak?
Hi, Sylvia. Oh, Anne, you wanna chime in?
Yeah, let's see how this, can I speak? I don't know how's
Oh,
the protocol.
absolutely. Go for it.
I don't know how you
The
put your
protocol,
hand
you
up, or how do you indicate you want to talk? No, I was just, I was interested when I saw you swap the word science with a body of knowledge. And that made me reflect on that, because as you were saying, quite often we have difficulties with words just because our nature of being particular about saying things in a particular way, or my way, or whatever. And I thought that was interesting, because this is something that not only just because it's a different, let's say Kardec wrote in French and then it's been translated to other languages, but he also wrote in the 19th century where the words had different meanings. And even like in our own lifetime, the weight of emotion on certain words changes as society evolves, and certain words in America or in England might also be used slightly differently. So I was happy and interested to see that you'd done that, because I think that facilitates us sometimes breaking open, so that say, what actually are we talking about? What actually do we think was meant by this? Rather than holding on very sort of evangelically onto words which might have changed their meaning a little bit, or trying to be able to decipher a little bit and look at something from different angles. So yeah, so that's just what I wanted to say, that that made me think about, you know, saying things in slightly different ways, which I think is helpful in terms of opening our own minds as well as opening the doors to others. That's me.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. I think, yeah, I think you nailed it, right? You know, one other word too, I think your point about the different cultures is also very important, because the words definitely have some contextual and cultural meaning, right? And I think that sometimes it goes unnoticed. One example, for instance, is the word doctrine, right? That in Portuguese and in French have a more liberal understanding. In my sense, this is just my personal sense, you know, that in English, it has a little bit more of a dogmatic feel to it. So sometimes, you know, Brazilian speakers, when they're talking about Spiritist doctrine, it makes perfect sense in the way that they're expressing themselves, given the cultural context that they were raised in and understand. But a native speaker in the United States might feel that doctrine is a little bit more of like something that you need to be indoctrinated into. It's a little bit more dogmatic, a little bit more mystical and cultish, right? So words have extreme power in many different ways, right? And I find it fascinating that Kardec decided to start the Spirit's book, the whole book that kicks it all off in, right? Like it starts the whole process, defining very clearly what he meant by that. So it's not a bad place for us to start either, you know?
I wanted to just comment quickly on that about the word doctrine. As an English person, I find doctrine is very dogmatic. It's a very dogmatic word. It implies a rigorous religion. Whereas I completely agree that Spiritism is a science, and as you quite rightly put down, a body of knowledge. So one thing that Janet Duncan, who's the first person to translate the gospel completely, because we know that Anna Blackwell had started her translation but didn't complete it. It was one of the last books that she worked on. But Janet Duncan, she's trying to instill the usage of the word teachings. So the Spiritist teachings, because that's a sort of a nicer way that here in the UK we can sort of relate to it being not necessarily something dogmatic, but something that you can dip in and out of, that you can learn from.
Teachings, a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. I like that very much. I think that that's one thing for us to keep in mind in any learning or discussion that we go into is exactly that. Like, are we talking about the same thing? Does this word mean the same thing to me that it means to you? And so it's really great for us to kind of keep doing that in general, right? So that's the reasons why we're talking about this. I think that another word that's sometimes loaded is the basic word God, right? God sometimes have a loaded meaning too, depending on what perspective you have come from, right? And religion is another one, right? So I often tell people that I think that oftentimes people talk about religion, and what you're really talking about is organized religion, not religion, which to me is an individual sport, right? It's you and the creator, like your connection. But so trying to get meanings out, it doesn't mean that we all have to use the same word for everything, and we might not agree on all the meanings all the time, right? But at least it's good if we are aware of where the other is coming from, because it will help in our dialogue, right? And so hopefully this is what we can do to kind of better grasp that. And once we get those foundational or like the operational definition of a word, as sometimes it's mentioned in academia, down, then we can really build on top of that, and that's when I think it gets beautiful, right? Anything else that folks want to add on that topic there that they found interesting, or they feel it's worth for us to approach, to talk about?
Then here, Cristiane, the one thing that I noticed as getting involved with Spiritism in the US is like the need to define and to understand the meaning of the words are very important, especially because for Americans, like there's the spiritualists, and so they tend to kind of connect the Spiritism with the phenomena. So it's like that we have the power to have the phenomenon or the medium, all that. So that's the connection they make when they hear or they talk about Spiritism. At least we had a few people coming to the center because they want to have that side of the spiritualism that they understand. So I think it's very important, especially for us here in the US, to have the word defined or understood by all of us, because to really make the difference in what we see as spiritualism, what is seen by others.
You you got me thinking there, Cristiane, because I like that very much, and I think that that's one of the most beautiful things about Spiritism, and it's one of the most beautiful pieces too, because there can be no centralizing body in Spiritism. There's no like ultimate authority in Spiritism, right? We don't get to really calibrate on all the words. We got to do this process individually, and I think this is really great. I really do think so, because I think that we ought to come together and work it out with each other and understand that and listen to reason, right? Because sometimes when we build institutions and authorities, things don't go very well. I think our history shows that, especially on the religious camp. Whenever there's humans, we're going to mess it up. It's what we do, right? We're really good at it. So I really like that very much. And I really like the background noise too. It gets me kind of going. I don't know who that is, but if somebody can mute themselves, that'd be great. But the point here is the word in general is it's really important, right? But are we going to get everybody to use the same words? No. Should we? No. We respect people's individual takes, right? That's totally okay. We just have to be open to understanding where they're coming from, because these are big words, right? These are really big words that we're talking about here. When we talk about Spiritism, we're talking about, according to the definition by Kardec, right, which is a science, and we already had thoughts about that, right? Science, body of knowledge, test tube science or not. A lot of people tell me it's not a science because we're the numbers, right? So their concept of science is different than perhaps my concept of science, or Adam's concept of science, or David's concept of science, right? And then we talk about the nature, the origin, and destiny. We're really talking about who we are where do we really come from, where we're going, and what are we? And these are like the historical questions, right? There can be no greater search in the universe, in my humble opinion, than trying to figure out what you are, who you are, where you come from, where you're going, what are you about, how should you behave. It's kind of like the whole purpose of everything, you know, wrapped up into a tiny, tiny ball, right? So these are big words, big words, really tough words. What else? What else? David, I haven't heard from you. Are you still on the line? You want to chime in? Or did we lose you? I think we lost you. I think we lost David. Had some interesting conversations with David about this stuff too before. So anybody else that wants to chime in on any of that piece, whether it be the word or the definition of Spiritism in general, it's totally okay for you to have I am difficult. So totally okay for you to have a distinct perspective, a different perspective on these things, right? There's no authority here. Like we get to work this out. Watch out, I might take from you.
I have a question. May I speak? Okay.
Go for it, Francisca.
Sorry, that's my little one in the background. He's 6 months old,
That's
so
okay.
that's why I had to leave.
Yeah.
Well, my question is that, hold on, it doesn't work. In Germany, Spiritism is most often defined or seen as witchcraft and something like that. So Spiritism in itself has a really negative connotation. So it's really hard for us here to talk about Spiritism as Spiritism. So I try to avoid it by talking more about Spiritist teachings. And I just would like to know how it is in the English language setting, because in my time in London, we didn't really have much of an issue, but to be honest, we didn't have that many English people who we could have discussed it with.
Yeah, it's a great question for the group. What do you guys think?
Hi. Yeah, can I speak?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think that in the UK there is historically there's been a strong spiritualist movement from the times of Kardec, but they didn't. What we usually say is they didn't embrace the French version of spiritualism, because there's always there are differences between France and England, and particularly reincarnation was a bit of a sticking point. So, but there's a strong tradition of spiritualism in the UK, with a strong tradition of mediumship and many famous and classical books that have been written, and lots of research done by people like William Crookes and all these kind of things. So the word spiritualism is a common word, so it doesn't have the same association like to witchcraft like it would have in Germany. What I usually find is that people say, well, why do you call yourself spiritist if you're really a spiritualist? Because, you know, you do mediumship and you study, well, and they think that we just sometimes trying to be a bit different, and that's why we call ourselves spiritist rather than spiritualist. But I mean, spiritism is, I would say, not so familiar, but so we can always start off by saying we are a brand of spiritualism who has particular beliefs and follow particular teachings, something like that. But I would say at least we don't suffer the same, in my perception at least, we don't suffer the same level of difficulty in like linking it to witchcraft. I don't think that's not the case here, in my view. I don't know if anybody has a different one.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Anybody else wants to chime in? I sure have opinions, but what do you think?
Can I say what I like? It. I think that's connected with history. Like I now can relate it, because coming from Croatia, I don't think there is any spiritist there, because it would be like forbidden by church, because anything that is connected with, you know, like spirits, mediumship, for that culture and like that area, is like something that is, you know, not like, not how do you say it, they don't support it. So that's not surprise. While when you live somewhere where there is more like different cultures, more like more open-mindedness, that then where people really don't care. But I'm thinking like if same like Francisca, if I would be talking about Spiritism to my like Croatian friends and family, they think that's against their religion. So, but regarding to this, maybe it's more question than words related for me, because I'm totally beginner. What I wanted to ask is like, what does it mean to be Spiritist? Like every group, every religion, it have something they follow. You know, like Christian go to church, pray rosary or something. What Spiritist does to be a Spiritist? Because on the end, we are all Spiritist, isn't it? As a like you know, soul and spirit in this body. And another question that always come to my mind, like I know when you read like a Kardec's book, you can tell they like from a very, very high and pure intelligence, all the books. But many people ask, how do you know that that spirits that came to him were of the higher realms? You know, how do you know it's from God? What would someone from Croatia ask me straight away? Because for them is like, I don't know, there is somewhere in Bible, in Old Testament, where someone called up upon spirit of someone, and that's when that spirit comes, say, why did you disturb me? And according to that passes is like, they always say like we should never disturb the dead. You know what I mean? So I don't know what would I argue against that. So that would be me. Yeah,
I love it. Julia, you've been quiet there, and then you unleashed these wonderful questions on us. I love it. That's wonderful. You know, you got me thinking here quite a bit about a bunch of different things. And I was already thinking this in general, but isn't it interesting that all religions, all religious thinking, denominations, whatever it is that you want to call, all of them speak about the life after the physical body has passed. But a lot of them decide to stop right there and say that just it's a matter of faith or mystery or whatever it is. And I think that's where Spiritism really shines, because it basically goes to that area and says, hey guys, we've actually can tell you a little bit about what the life on the beyond is. And this could add to your own belief, and you would validate all your beliefs and everything else that you teach and hold dear to your heart. So in that sense, Spiritism, I think, is really great, because it's a great complement to all organized religions or religions in general, because it talks about that area that nobody was really talking about, right? All kind of religions say, you got to do this, that, and then there is going to be immortal life, and that's it. But they don't tell you what the immortal life really looks like, other than you're going to go to heaven or hell, and that's kind of a tough thing, right? We'll talk a little bit more about that in the philosophy part of this too in the next session. But Spiritism goes and bridges that gap, which I think is really, really interesting. And that's kind of my take. And I think you bring a very important point about what is it to be a Spiritist, right? And I think that's a fascinating question, and I think one that Kardec answers really well for me too, but I want to hear the group in general too, is Kardec says that you can recognize the true Spiritist by the effort he or she employs in curbing their inclinations and developing new good habits, right? So if you are trying to better yourself and become a better person, according to that definition of Kardec, you could be a Spiritist without ever picking up a Spirit's book, right? Much the same way, I know a lot of really wonderful Christians who are atheists, right? That they are more kind and follow the teachings of the Christ, than a lot of people who I see going to church every day kind of thing, right? So it's a really interesting topic, and it's one about inner transformation, I think, right? And I want to hear from the group on this one too, but the last one that you talked about, how do you know? And I think that's, that's a good spirit or a bad spirit. And I think that was the genius of Kardec too, which was how do you triangulate information, right? How are you able to discern between a good source and a not so great source of information? And I think it's brilliant. And we'll talk more about this too, because we don't always have the time, but the way he structures the Spirit's book and the way he teaches us how to get the information ourselves, which literally is the medium's book, I think is the proof of how his thinking was really, really strong in this area, right? And triangulating that. So I say, like, hold your thought if you can, and ask that question again so that we can dive in deeper, Yulia, the question about how do you recognize which spirit is great, because that's a really great question. But let's kind of hop around a little bit about with the group too. And what do you guys think? What do you think makes somebody a spiritist?
I think we still, although it's important, to differentiate beliefs, we still, to this day, still very attached to labels. But in the future, as we know, we read in the doctrine, there will be no labels. We won't have any more. We won't have, I'm a Jew, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim. We'll just be living as spiritual beings and children of God. We just all feel the same. So at one time was posed to me the question, how do you explain to a non-spiritist what is to be a spiritist? Because that word itself sometimes puts off some people when you talk about spirits. So the simplest way that I could find to help this person who wanted to propagate the doctrine to her friends, co-workers and whatnot, I just mentioned we follow the moral teachings of Jesus Christ as enlightened by higher intelligence. So to me, like once you associate it with the moral teachings of Christ, I think it becomes a lot more amenable to reception. I think people are more welcoming to it.
So here's a tough question. You ready? This is for the group, not for Sergio. Can you be a spiritist and not be a Christian?
Yeah.
100% yes. And I can affirm this because I am not Christian. I'm not from a Christian background at all. Yet I do identify myself as Spiritist.
Yeah, right. I think it's a great perspective. I think that's a really great perspective, especially because the word Christian is also very loaded, right? In general. There are a lot of Christians out there that are not Christ-like at all, right?
That's true.
Right. So interesting stuff for us to think about. So we got to coalesce around the word, but see, words are tricky, right? Words can get us into trouble. So I think that they're one of the beautiful passages of the New Testament, for instance, the second letter to Corinthians, 3:4 or something like that. It says, for the spirit, for the letter kills and the spirit gives life, right? So that if we are to interpret everything literally by the letter, by the words, without kind of trying to get to the spirit of things behind those words, we might get ourselves into trouble, right? But it's an interesting piece. So what is it to be a spiritist to you? So is it to be more Christ-like? Is it to be more Christian? Is it to be a better human being? What else could you throw into the mix?
Believe in reincarnation.
Ooh, that's a good point, right? One of the tenets of Spiritism is belief in reincarnation, because it's hard for us to try and get divine justice without reincarnation, right? We'll have a whole discussion on this coming up too. But there's certain things that are kind of core to Spiritism in a way, right? Anything else people want to throw in there?
I think Oh, Anne,
Anne,
go
were you
ahead,
gonna say
Anne.
something?
No, I talk too much, so you go ahead first. You go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that I feel like as Spiritists, we are not just followers. We see a lot of religions where people behave as followers. In Spiritism, I feel I am an active participant of my evolvement. I am allowed to ask questions. I'm kind of motivated to study, to ask questions, and that makes me participant of my beliefs and what I'm learning, what I'm discovering throughout this lifetime. So that's the way I see the difference being a Spiritist and other religions or other people that follow other religions. So it's not just a religion.
Anne is going to chime in, but I'm going to be difficult and push back. Luciani, can you be a really lazy person and still call yourself Spiritist? Can you be a really lazy Spiritist and not do anything and still call yourself Spiritist?
Well, you can call yourself Spiritist being lazy, but I think it takes more than just believing. To be a Spiritist, it takes more than just, okay, I believe in spirits, I believe in reincarnation, I'll try to be a good person. I think it takes more than that.
Great. Anne, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I think one of the things that came to mind when Yulia was speaking was, in many religions you have set tasks you must do. Let's say you must go to mass, you must take confession, you must pray the rosary, or you must pray 5 times a day, depending on your religion. So there's exterior tasks that some religions set as a pathway for their followers. And in Spiritism, there is nothing about the exterior tasks. It's about the inner transformation. And that is, I think, where there's a big difference. So you don't have to do anything, but it's up to you. It's about you reinterpreting your life and aligning yourself with your progress so that you're moving through life in a different way, and you're discovering your own ways of helping yourself, helping others, evolving. So you don't need to sort of even be using the title, I'm a Spiritist. So just I'm trying to be a better person today than I was yesterday. And, I might want to go to church, for whatever reason, I might want to do, but it's not, Spiritism is not about the exterior practices, which are traditional in most other religions, but it's about taking that inside. And I think this is where it's not, somebody's not telling you what you need to do, but you are discovering what you need to do for yourself.
Agreed. Totally agree.
I agree too.
Well said, Anne. And Sylvia, welcome. We're excited to have you here too.
Thank you. I finally figured it out how to get in. I'm so sorry. I'm not a tech smart. So, thank you.
Yes, Sylvia, you're not techie yet. We're really great to have you here. Where are you coming from today, Sylvia? Where are you at?
I live in Puyallup, Washington State.
Wonderful. Look at that. Washington State. Great. So, Anne, I think you said brilliantly there. I was going to throw another difficult question in there for us and say, is Spiritism a religion? And I think that you kind of proactively tackled that one for us, right? And I think that's something interesting there too. And I think Francisca's baby also agrees. We should give the baby a voice too, because all I see is wonderful smiles right now. It's great. Ask her baby, how's the reincarnation going so far, Francisca? But that's a great point, and I think that one we're going to continue to explore, which is Spiritism a religion? It's not an organized religion because we don't have priests and formers and so forth, but it could be a way for us to connect with God, right? And did I hear somebody chiming in?
Can I cut in for a minute? I've been a Spiritist since 60 years now. And to me, when I was growing up, my father went to centers and all that in Brazil. And we joined, we went, he wanted me, but whenever I had friends of different religions and they would ask me to join them at their churches or whatever. And my father was very agreeable. He says, yes, I want you to go and see how people think of God differently, how they describe him. But it all comes down to the same. And he says, when you turn older, you know, you choose the religion you want to be. And I did. I mean, it's not a religion, but I stayed at Spiritist. And all these years, what I always gather is that you must live your life as one, not just Spiritism, but I think most religions, they want you to be good to others. They want you to, you know, help others if they need, or yourself, and become a better person. You know, by now I should have been an angel all those years, but I did stumble into my rocks. But anyhow, so that's all I wanted to say.
We're working on it, Sylvia. We're working on it. When you get there, let me know. Or can I just hold on to you as you climb by?
Sure. I wish.
Great. So I want to be mindful of time. I know it's we're 5 minutes from our scheduled time. So I want to kind of just wrap up and say thank you, first of all, of course, but see if there's anything else that you want to talk about. Also remind you that we do have the forum on the course itself, so you're welcome to ask questions there as well. But I would love to, you know, I should say a little bit more about that. There's a forum called Social Forum and Other Questions. So if you want to continue the conversation there, that's not necessarily related to one of our modules, please do so. But I also want to kind of hear back from you guys about the whole experience later on. So keep that in mind if you feel like we can tweak the way we do things. This is what we're here for. We're going to learn. So keep that in mind. Provide a feedback later when you can. So any other thoughts that we want to share or wrap up before we do our closing prayer? Anything else that anybody else might want to offer today to the group? Nope. All right, so I just want to thank you for trying this out. I know that the first time it's always a little bit more awkward, right? A little bit more difficult with the technology and everything else. I think the next time we do the online piece, it's going to go a little bit faster. We don't necessarily need to introduce ourselves that much. We can kind of just say, hey, I am Dan, I'm here in San Diego. I am so-and-so, I'm somewhere else here, right? And kind of just get to know each other better through the interactions per se, not necessarily the introductions. And I look forward to trying to see if you guys also have questions and topics that you want to address specifically before even we get the call. We can say, hey, we're going to talk, 2 weeks from now, and can we put this question in there? And we already can kind of have an agenda before we even jump in. So feel free to think about that in advance. And also think about it. Is 2 weeks okay? The idea was to have a week to kind of just do the contextual theoretical person by yourself, and then another week for us to continue to do that, but to have the social piece interacting as well, right? So keep that in your mind. Let it percolate a little bit, and hopefully we'll get to connect in 2 weeks' time again live. And if not, we'll connect individually via the forum. Thank you for being here. I look forward to seeing you soon, more time, baby included. And I was wondering if anybody out there is willing to do our prayer for us.
The what?
The closing prayer.
Oh, sorry.
A little prayer to kind of wrap us up. Is anybody willing to do that?
I can do it.
Oh, I think Sergio. Because there's always this awkward silence, right? Like, who wants to do it? Everybody looks down.
Okay,
thank you, Sergio.
No problem. I'd like to ask each and every one to close your eyes for a few seconds, and concentrate not on the person, not on this incarnation you currently live in, but try to identify with the spirit, the immortal spirit that you are. Try to remember the many lives that you had before, and recognize that this is your most perfect incarnation. This is your most enlightened level and status of your spirit. And each successive incarnation will be better. You will be intellectually and morally more self-sufficient. Not only be able to affect your own progress, but to assist all your brothers and sisters who are coming up, as they should, and as we, on our way to become agents of the providence. We thank the Father for the opportunity to have this study session, and we hope there will be many more to come. So be it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great week.
You too. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you.